Okay, this is a fun game. Okay, no, I just wanted to get rid of my just quick preview of the game, so I don't want to spoil the story for anyone looking at this game. Okay, Tal versus Hjartarson, Reykjavik, 1987. Alright, so we have E4, now E5, so we've got Roy Lopez coming up, classic Roy Lopez. I try and stay away from the Roy Lopez, by the way, in Cube War Zones. I really like the Vienna game at the moment. I'm a Vienna game addict, but that's besides the point. So knight f6, after castles, and we have bishop e7. So standard sort of stuff. c3, white's trying to get the classic centre. Plays h3 to avoid the pin. Maybe on bishop g4 could be annoying. So knight a5, preparing this like c5 to try and later be able to play cd and share some of the c file when white plays d4. Okay, so white can play d4 or can play d3 if he wants to be more quiet, but Tal plays d4. So queen c7. Recently we saw Nakamura playing d5. I'm not sure d5 is that great. The tension, is sometimes best to keep the tension going here in the center. So knight f1, the knight's wriggling somewhere useful, maybe g3 to f5, if5, or maybe even e3, because that knight is actually, that bishop's protecting that pawn. So cd, we got some resolution in the center, we got some pressure on the c file. I don't know about you guys, sometimes I've been feeling uncomfortable in a position like this, because this battery looks kind of menacing, doesn't it, sometimes. Also black, you know, it's got that nice knight, can come to c4. So sometimes I have a feeling of, you know, if I was white, there would be a slight concern here about the counterplay. But knight e3, just in time. No need to move the bishop, the knight's protecting it now. Okay, and the bishop's protecting the pawn, so everything's okay. You might consider, oh, what about knight c4? Well, I think it's all theory. So let's see what happened. Knight c6. So this might imply that there's knight b4 on the horizon. d5, inviting knight b4. Is that going to be played? It is played. So what is black doing here in this opening? It seems, is black nitpicking white for this c2 pressure, for this c file pressure? Bit of a nitpicky opening. Well, bishop b1, and the knight is going to be kicked, maybe, you know, a3, that pesky knight, and maybe b4 even later, because at the moment it's got no squares to run. That pawn's blocking it, can't go here, so black has to make way for the knight, I think. So a5 gives a6 a retreat square, and then the knight can reroute and maybe attack e4, then maybe b4. Okay, Tal's playing white. Look, the names are here. Look, can you see that? Mikhail Tal versus Hjartarson. This was Reykjavik, 1987. Okay, so we have the knight being kicked back to a6. So the knight's rerouting. Do we worry about this rerouting? Or the Americans would say rerouting. sorry, I don't know, I just threw that in, sorry. So b4. Okay, if takes knight b4, what's happening there? I have no idea. Why wouldn't that be possible to win the pawn now? Any ideas? Let's have a look at that. Black didn't play that, he played g6. So that's my first question. I know, being dumb, I'll just say, well, can black just win the pawn there? Before going on to g6, who wants to look at that? Winning the pawn? Anyone? Oh, there's bishop d2. So someone might have found the refutation. Let's have a quick look at that. So Blaggy 333. You've got Hawkeye sense, yeah? Bishop d2. Or queen b3. Queen b3 might be possible as well. Queen b3 or bishop d, or maybe both. You see queen b3, we might use bishop d2 here. Where's that knight going? That pesky knight is getting trapped. Okay, so maybe that's out of the question. The knight's getting trapped, isn't it? Yeah, there's no queen takes c1 or anything to worry about. King's got pigeonhole, escape square. Okay. So we're convinced b4 is a safe enough move to play. Some of the issues on the queen side are calming down, and g6 is played. So do we have to reinforce b4 soon? Yes, immediately. Bishop d2. Okay. Takes queen b7. So queen b7, strategically, you know, maybe black wants to move the knight to play f5 to try and undermine e4, which would undermine d5. Sort of King's Indian style attack, maybe come to f4 later. I think that's black's basic plan. So let's see the unravelling. But b5 might be an issue. b5 is potentially an exploitable weakness if white's ingenious enough. And in my quick secret preview of this game, I did see something extremely ingenious revolving around b5 later. So knight c7, it looks adequately protected, doesn't it? So is black going to do this plan to try and, you know, get an attack, maybe undermine d5 as well, because there's more pressure on d5 as well. So knight c2, okay. So he's given his bishop possibility for bishop h6. If he wants to kick the rook away, then f5 is going to be less effective. So knight h5, bishop e3. So he doesn't go all the way to h6. Bishop e3, he might want to play rook a7. He might then want to play queen a1. This queen would then be on the diagonal, and then you might be looking at something nasty then, like bishop h6 again, and maybe knight e5, get to g7, that sort of thing. Okay, so don't want to allow rook a7. So rook a8, queen d2. Everything's calm again. We've got more strength now on this diagonal though, so there's no pesky knight f4s to deal with. But what about this f5? It takes f5. So is black undermining d5? Is this dangerous? You know, maybe there's even bishop h3 on the cards if the rook's pointing at f3 later. So how is this counterplay going to be extinguished? Bishop h6, kick the rook. The rook doesn't have to move. Knight g7. It looks kind of elegant. This is kind of cheeky, isn't it? Knight g7. Elegance about it. Where are the exploitable weaknesses? b5 doesn't seem that vulnerable. This knight seems to be lazing around, doing nothing at the moment. But I suppose it's got an opportunity for knight b3 to a5 if it wants to get in the game with tempo. This rook is just holding up e4. Maybe it wants to be somewhere like the c-file. But where would it be useful on the c-file here? Okay, so knight b3. Improving the pieces. f4. Locking up the position a bit. Okay. Is this a problem, locking up the position? Knight a5. And now rook c1. Mysterious rook move. It's mysterious. Would any of you guys play rook c1 here? I'm just wondering. Who would play rook c1? Okay, you might be considering, you might play rook c1 because you might think, hang on, I can play queen c3 later, I can hit the knight. Or maybe knight c6 because the rook is supporting c6. Okay, okay. So rook a8. Oh, I better close the door for a sec. This dog's barking. Hold on a sec. Okay. Queen c2. Okay. So there is pressure on c7. Is this bishop like locked in, by the way? It can't escape, can it? Bishop g5, I suppose. Or we can just take it any time. It's not a problem. Okay. So knight e8. Queen b3. Ooh, queen b3, x-ray on the king. X-ray on the king, look at that diagonal. If this pawn were to move, there'll be d6 check, winning the bishop. Okay, just bear that in mind. So bishop f6. Right. Knight c6. Starting to look uncomfortable for black. This knight, which was lazing around, is now very dangerous on c6. So knight h5. Queen b2 now. Is there a threat on the horizon? Queen b2. Is there some sort of threat on the horizon? f4 is adequately guarded at the moment. This is adequately guarding that. There's no real threat at the moment with queen b2, surely. So bishop g7. Doesn't mind taking off. Now, is this diagonal slightly vulnerable, would you say, to the king? Rook c5. Wow. Rook c5. The queen has a lust to break into the position here. If takes, then maybe check. And then what happens? No idea. Does anyone have an idea? Is this something we should engine check? Black just ignored that. He just played queen a6. So who wants to engine check this? Or does anyone immediately see what would happen? I think we should engine check it myself. With Rybka will do. So we'll take. Okay, actually it's not queen takes e5, guys. It's not. It seems to be knight f takes e5. The brute force machine is saying knight f takes e5. If queen takes e5, probably maybe black's winning massively. Look, black's winning. I misled you there about a queen check when actually knight takes e5. Knight takes e5 is better for white. So this has the potential for unleashing something like knight g4 check. And then you could imagine knight h6 is being dangerous. If king g8, knight h6 will be dangerous. So here, this diagonal is vulnerable. And say we try and defend, then knight takes d7. There's a nasty pin again. So it's difficult to defend. If king g8, then again knight takes, or even check. Maybe even this one. But even stronger is apparently knight e7 check. And then actually just win the queen. That'd be nice. So here it looks as though what would be black's defense? Here, knight hf6. He could try giving up a piece, but it's still better for white here. Okay. And if he doesn't give up a piece, say he plays queen a6. No, that's giving up a piece as well. You could try and escape, but again white's better. So white seems to be better in all variations, it seems, here after knight takes e5. Are you guys convinced by that? Let's just take on c6. Let's take on c6 here to get the bishop out of the way. What would happen here? Whoa. Oh, well, either knight c4 check or knight d7, just winning the queen, basically. Winning the queen. Okay. Everyone's convinced. Let's try king h6. Right, we'll just try king h6. Probably knight f7 as mate. that wasn't the best defense. Okay. All right, we're all convinced. Let's go on. So knight. So basically it wasn't taken. Right. So queen a6. Rook takes b5. He just snatched the pawn. Getting the rooks off. Knight takes e5. Nope. He's smashed open the diagonal with knight takes e5. Check. And he's faced now with a mate in one. Look at this. The pawn is stopping the king out. The knight is stopping the king out. White is faced. Red alert, panic stations. We're faced with a mate in 1. How does Tal react? He's got to find a forced mate now. Okay, forced mate time. Check. Okay, we've got the check. Okay. Check number 2. Oh, this is an amusing one though, guys. Check number 3 is a good for a laugh. Can you, if I give you 20 seconds, can you spot check number 3 here? So 20 seconds starting from now before you say anything, okay? Okay, suggestions? What would be check number 3? Anyone? Queen G7? Fruit pig. Queen G7? You've just lost your queen. Look, knight takes G7. You just lost your queen. BG-VCC. Knight G5. You've just been mated. Queen H1, mate. You guys, come on. Rook E8. You just had to lose a rook. Come on. Come on. What is check number 3 here? Come on. All right, yeah. Someone's found it. Someone's miraculously found the winning check. Okay, someone's mentioned it, so I'm going to say it. All right, knight check. Yeah, forces the king out to the f7 square. And can you all spot what would happen here then? If I give you 10 seconds. Yeah? You can all spot the next one? Yeah? Okay, who's going to say it? Alright, okay. Knight G5, mate. So the king has been surrounded by all these knights and queens and rooks. It's all surrounded. All these squares surrounded. Oh well. It was black. If just black had one more move, it'd be mate. So that was an interesting game as well, wasn't it? Roy Lopez. It's a quick overview and summary. Just reinforce it, I think, with the overview and summary. So if you want to play the Roy Lopez, you can play it like this. Keep the tension in the center. Let black play even knight b4. You can kick that knight back and play b4 here. You know, you don't let black creep any further on the queen side. You keep a bind on the queen side with b4. I mean, that's a really clever move myself. And then okay, some weird stuff happens. This knight maneuver is very positional actually, guys. This knight maneuver to a5, very positional, isn't it? Knight takes. Okay, so the knight's destined for great things here in the position, the one on a1. Okay, so it's positional as well as attacking. And then there was this episode coming up with the knight takes e5, piercing the position very soon. Knight takes e5, getting to black's king just in time before white gets mated. Okay. Alright, I'm going to stop that and I'm going to find another game. So I'll be back in a minute. I'm going to save that now. Okay.